Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Ask Elly Intuitive Insights and Your Questions Answered. This morning, July 14th, welcome. It is Bastille Day in France, and we're also going to be talking about some other French things. So it's really an apropos day for this. And also, just to give you an introduction, for those of you listening for the very first time, my name is Elly Molina. I am your hostess. I'm an intuitive, psychic, educator, author, consultant, uh, and teacher, well, educator, teacher. And this morning, I'd like to welcome Deb into the studio, the live studio so far. And good morning, Deb. Thank you for being here. Today, we're going to be talking about epistemes. And Josie, good morning. Josie's entered the live studio also. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about epistemes. But before we do, I'm going to just go over a few astrological things that are happening for us. All right. So tomorrow is a really great day in terms of astrology. We've got July 15th, we've got a Sun trine Neptune. It's a great day for daydreaming and imagination. It's a great day for taking pictures. It's a really wonderful day to let your imagination start roaming. And we do know that imagination is key in creating what it is that we want. So when we allow ourselves to go deeply into imagination, that is where the magic happens. And I say magic, but it's not really magic. Imagination is the power that is within us that allows for the creative force. We know that everything in this world has been imagined first before it came into creation. And so we can spend some time tomorrow, even just sitting on our own couches or on a park bench or in at the beach, anywhere beautiful, and just spend some time really quote unquote daydreaming, living in your imagination, seeing the things that you really want to see and have be real for you. Just allow yourself to give yourself space to have that imagination. Real quickly, I just want to share a little story with you. Speaking of imagination, I recently worked with a very successful young entrepreneur. And I say young only because most people, when they reach their late 20s, are not clear with what they want, nor are they, not most people, let's just say. And not everybody is so successful that they're living a lifestyle that is quite amazing for just for somebody that chronological age. And so as we were talking about her success and really what prompted her success. And she again told me the key in her own words. She goes, I'm a really good daydreamer and I can imagine anything. I can imagine everything that I have and that I'm doing in my business right now. I remember lying down in my bed and daydreaming and imagining it happening, and I saw it all real, and I knew that it was going to happen for me. And that's what it took. That is the kinds of belief that it takes to be able to imagine it and then believe that it is a knowingness that this is what's going to happen. And we all know that things work very differently than the way that we suspect them to. However, go back to imagination tomorrow. Spend the day imagining and having fun in it. Okay, and that means you can even start tonight. All right. Okay, welcome, Bobo, to the live call today, and Josie again, and Deb. And so, if anybody has any questions, please type them in. But the next thing that I want to talk about is on the 17th of July, where we have the sun up opposing Pluto. So, on this day, just be the observer. Don't go if I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Only it would be a better day to just become an observer as opposed to just, making your voice heard and winning, looking to win an argument and looking to be righteous. This is not the day to do it. If anything, you're just going to end up losing friends. Okay. Then the next day that we have on the calendar that's really going to be fun is on July 20th, which is the coming Tuesday. We have Mercury sextile Uranus, and this is a great day for innovations and presentations and putting forth think projects and ideas again that let's say that you've daydreamed into reality on the 15th. Okay, so then a great day to actually put those into execution would be on the 20th. All right, so without further ado, that's what's on the agenda for the astrology for this week. And let's get started. So, if anybody has any questions today, please feel free to enter them into the chat, and I will then, or call in with your question. You need a headset to call in, and I will answer them. Otherwise, the topic for today is the new episteme, and it's episteme, and I keep getting confused when I say it myself, but it's an episteme. All right, now the question is, what's an episteme? All right, let's go talk about what is an episteme. So, back in the day, not so long ago, Michael Foucault, he was a famous philosopher, a linguist, and historian, and he worked with the concept of epistemes, and he taught that history of science is not singular, it's not linear, it's not a trajectory towards more knowledge, but it science is really conversations and perspectives and discoveries and insights that disrupt the current cultural perspective. So we're going to come back to dissect that. There are historically only three major epistemes in over the last 800 years in Western European culture. So, in order to understand the episteme, this is a conscious behavior of the culture and the unconscious behavior. So, the conscious rules of society are the rules that we understand consciously, and then we make decisions according to them. Then, the unconscious levels determine how we think, how we write, how we behave. And these are deeply, deeply embedded into our society and into our belief system. So let's take a look at the Middle Ages because that was when we had one of our last epistemes, and this was, scientific knowledge that was known back in the day would be ridiculed today, and even things that were so ingrained into society. All of that today would be ridiculed, and we'd say, well, that's really, that's really, really wrong. However, in the episteme, it's an unconscious rule that starts to govern the scientific conversations at a certain time. And it's what does and does not get taken seriously by by the scientific community. And so, since it's unconscious, most of the people are not even aware of it because it follows unconscious rules that govern our behavior. So if you, let's say, for example, you want to look at how is this different from a paradigm. So a paradigm is conscious. Scientists and researchers are conscious of the knowledge and the behavior. The episteme is unconscious because the rules are deeply ingrained in our thinking. And this is where we are beginning a new episteme. It's it's at the verge right now of coming into existence, and I'm going to come back and talk more about that. But a paradigm, for example, happens only in specific fields like in history, linguistics, art, whereas the episteme encompasses all the facets of culture. It encompasses history and science. And a paradigm doesn't live very long. There could be several paradigm shifts in a century, but according to Foucault, epistemes happen so very rarely that there have been only three in the last 800 years. Okay, so now these again, since these are subconscious and unconscious, it's really challenging. It's like we're living in it. So we're going to look around and say, well, let's take a look at how this is showing up in our life. Okay, so I'm just making sure that there are no questions here. Okay, so how is this showing up in our life? Well, firstly, it's showing up in science. And in science now, we have all of the conversations happening about the quantum field. This is a scientific conversation that is happening. We have we have in science, we also have all of the various theories that revolve around quantum theory. Then we're looking at dimensionality in science. We're now looking at various dimensions that exist. And then in science and technology, we're looking now at dimensionality, we're looking at the quantum field, we're looking at computers, we're looking at artificial intelligence. In science, we're looking at manipulating genes, we're looking at stem cell we're looking at genetic modifications. So we are absolutely entering into this as more than a paradigm. Then in our money, we're looking at blockchain, we're looking at moving away from the idea of cash into digital currencies. Let me see if I'm missing anything. And in art now, we're moving away from art in terms of the way that art had been known in the past. Now we're moving into digital art, we're moving into artificial intelligence art, we're moving into NEFs. So there is an entire new culture across the reference that is emerging right now, and it is all happening unconsciously. And so it is no longer a paradigm, but this is the beginning. We are now beginning to live in this new episteme, and it's extremely exciting. Now, one of the things that I've noted on this is that culturally, there are groups of people that are now naming it, the new earth. Okay, so now will it be known? We don't know what this is going to be known as historically. Uh, because we're not going to be around. Okay, so well, who knows, right? But for most part, we won't be in our physical bodies when this goes down in the history books. So we will not know what the name of this is going to be. Will it be known as the New Earth? Will this episteme be known as the quantum error? Will it be known as the artificial intelligence? We don't have any idea what it's going to be termed as, because we are in it right now. We are in the process of creating and living through this. And so most people are not even aware that this is happening. They're just like, oh, this is just a regular day-to-day thing. And while it is a regular day-to-day thing, it is historically as important as the Industrial Revolution, when the industrial age was historically hundreds of years ago. So this is where, or during the Dark Ages into the Renaissance, this is what we are living through right now, is historically that important. We have, even in what has been known as pseudoscience, again, um, pseudoscience, we're talking about spirits and healers, and we're talking about channeling. Well, the more that you keep reading in magazine articles or scientific journals, you're going to see that scientists are beginning to catch up now to what pseudoscience has already proclaimed as being real. So, for example, the idea of channeling, the idea of communication across, telepathy, all of these things are now neuroscience is finding a way to actually bring this into the realm of making it more plausible and believable for people who are highly skeptic and just feel that everything has to be written by a scientist in a journal in order to be real. And there are very, very many people on the planet that still have this belief system, even especially in Western culture, that if it's not scientifically confirmed, and who were the scientists, scientific journals, Harvard University, the institutes. If it is not officially published in an institutional journal, then it is not real. And so we really want to look at that and say, because we those people listening to this podcast, for the most part, we know that that is not true, and at least it's not true in our belief and in our reality. And that is the beauty of also of this new episteme, because in this new episteme we are now emerging into a space where there's the acceptance of what we call parallel realities, and that this is now becoming a conscious conversation that people can have with each other, and somebody won't necessarily, be stoning them or ridiculing them for having these conversations. So that is the easy version of the new episteme that we're living in right now, that we're undergoing, the watered down easy version. And for anybody who really wants to delve deeper in this, hey, head over to Michael Foucault's book and check out his research on epistemes. And there's also some YouTube videos available if anybody's interested in exploring these topics further. So, okay. Question. Okay. Thank you, Deb. It is fascinating, especially as we live through this. And today I was thinking a little bit about channeling and how our current society sees channeling as something so, I'm just going to say, either something so wrong or something so skeptical. So we've got such an interesting take on channelers and on channeling. So when we talk to ourselves, okay, when we get messages from our higher self, that is okay, and that is deemed as acceptable and not in violation of any churchly or religious morals. Okay, it's okay to be sitting down meditating and have some information come to you, and you can call that channeled, and that will all be okay. Then there are certain people that if they start to do this and start to channel, then it's not okay. All right. So it's just real fascinating, because channelers and prophets have been with us since the evolution of man. This goes back to before the Bible. This goes back to before we started AD. This goes back to, you talk about tribes, you talk about any place where there have been clans of emerging groups of people becoming aware and conscious, and you will find that there has always been somebody who has channeled. If you go back and look at the earliest clans and the earliest traces of humans living together in cultures as a group, there will be a shaman, or there will be a tribe master, or there will be a spirit leader, there will be somebody. So historically, we have always had channelers. Again, it's important that we realize that we are not to give our power away. This is my opinion. You can give your power away to anybody, but I lost my thought over here. You can give your power away to anybody. That is your choice. Okay. However, when we do claim our power for ourselves, this is always the best place to start. Okay. All right. I just got a question here, and I'm going to go follow this. According to predictions that Brother Eric has been making for years, the water and food storage shortage wars should start within the next 3 to 4 years, and total world upheaval will soon follow. Civilized life as we know it should be ending soon as we fight over the last remaining scraps to survive. I saw this posted on Facebook. What are your thoughts? Okay, thank you. Okay, Josie, you're asking me for my thoughts. Remember, my thoughts. So these are my thoughts. This is my personal opinion. It is nothing else. It's not written in stone. It's not dogma. It's not the word of God. It is just my personal opinion. So if we look at it from a scientific point of view, if we look at it scientifically, then we know that in quantum physics, whatever we look at becomes our reality. So basically, what you see, you perceive, that is your reality. So if we look at a world where there is water and food shortage, and where there are going to be world wars and total chaos and upheaval, and civilization is going to fall into ruins. Well, this has been a biblical prophecy also from the get go since the New Testament appeared. And so for some people, this, not as a collective whole, this may become their reality. They may be living in an area, because you just think about it right now. There are countries right now where we are living today, modern day today, where there is water shortage and there is food shortage, where there is upheaval and world chaos. Think of Syria. Now, you don't hear about all of these things right now because we're living here, and the news that we get is provided to us by large corporations. And so there's going to be a lot of news that you're not going to get, and you're going to have to go to look for that. But for example, right now, as so many people are living in opulence and making so much money, and doing really, really well in the stock market and going up into outer space with other billionaires, there are people on this planet who are currently lacking food, lacking water, living in filth, living in disease, living in war ravaged areas. And so, this is my opinion. Whatever we put our focus on and where we focus, that is what is going to be happening for us. So, I can't tell you what Brother Eric's reality is going to look like, nor can I tell you what will happen in civilization, because in my reality, where I'm going to be, where I'm putting my focus, is that I will not live in a world where that's not going to be part of my creation. So, and it won't be the creation of many people. And then you'd have to look again, like I don't know who Brother Eric is, and I don't know his motives for this. And I don't know his intentions or his predictions. I know absolutely nothing about it. However, just like in a nutshell, what he's talking about already exists in some parts of the world. So we don't have to really, look too far. So I don't know if that answered your question. Again, we really do create our reality based on our imagination, and where we find ourselves, and our circumstances, based on our belief system and, again, our imagination. Hi, Elfie 777 from Vermont, and thank you, Deb, for that comment. I'm going to share a story with you. I never knew her personally, but when I lived in Washington State, there was a time where a lot of people in the area that I was living in believed that we were heading to doomsday. And they followed the teachings of a particular leader who predicted that there was going to be food shortage, water shortages, that they needed to live under the ground in their bunkers. And so a number of people started building bunkers, and also started creating storage units. And so there was a particular woman who, and I mean, this is just such a sad story that it's ironic, and it's in the telling of it. So there was a woman that lived in this community who was highly, highly fearful that she wasn't going to have enough food, she wasn't going to have enough water. So she had created a really big storage unit, in the ground. And of course it was hidden because she was afraid that if anybody knew where her storage unit was, they would come and ravage it when the time came and the big destruction started. So she went to put some more items into her food storage, and something happened. Nobody was there to know exactly what had happened, but she slipped into her food storage and she fell in head first and broke her neck. So when she did not appear for a while in her community, her friends, family, people went to look for her, and they found her body in her food storage unit. She had fallen in. And so there was, I mean, it's like, this is a nasty story. This is, a disaster story. Only her fear, her fear led to her death, that she wasn't going to have enough, that she had built this storage unit that only she could reach. And, I just found it, here she was preparing for a future that she wanted to live in, that would be, she would be protected from doomsday, and she ends up dying in her own food storage. So it's ironic and very, very sad at the same time. And so, again, we really have to be so careful with what we choose to believe. If you want to believe that you can have a wonderful life, and that you can have the job of your dreams, and you can have um, anything at all that you really, really want, well, then that's where your attention, your focus, your conversations, that's where that goes. And you stay away from things that encourage fear, that encourage lack, because even reading this kind of a post, Josie, is upsetting. The fact that, oh my God, in 3 to 4 years there's going to be upheaval. What are we going to do? Let's worry about the future. What if that really happens? You know, um, what if we have to start saving food? Yeah, okay. And so save food for years, see what happens, see if you'll need it and if it'll still be good enough to eat. So, again, it's perspective, it's where you're at mentally, it's where you're at in your belief system. And do I see this happening for the collective whole? No, I don't. Just like when we started the pandemic, everybody was predicting that this was going to be the end, and all of these horrible things were going to happen. And you know what? It was business as usual. Okay, sure. Now we have some other stuff that's as a result of this pandemic. We're going into a different era politically, where we have inflation showing up now. But we saw this coming for those people. People saw this. Um, we saw where this was going. And if you didn't see where it was going, then again, maybe we were just looking in the opposite direction. But that is my opinion. So the rising gas prices were predictable. The shortage of food, in the supermarkets because of crops and products is predictable. Will this be the end? No, absolutely not. Will we suffer through an inflation stage? Yeah, most likely. But again, it won't be the first time in history that we've gone through this, and nor will it be the last time. So choose where you want to stay on this, Josie, and choose, if you want to stay in fear and start gathering and storing food, that's your prerogative. But if you also want to stay in the space where there's an abundance of air, there's abundance of water, there's an abundance of love, there's an abundance of light, that will also become your next reality. Okay. Um, any questions before we end this today? This has been very interesting. I love your questions, and yeah. Any questions? Any comments? Any thoughts before we end for this Wednesday? Okay. All right. Okay. So with that, what I'd love to do is wish you all a really wonderful rest of the week. Focus on the things that you want to have happen in your life. Go out tomorrow, sit on your park bench, um, daydream, sit in your backyard, visualize the life that you want to have for yourself, and go for it. So much love to you all, many blessings, and thank you all for being here today with me. All right, take care. Bye bye, everybody. Bye. Thank you.